barbershop that much anymore, and that was a lot of fun. So, thank you all very much, and happy Independence Day.
Thank you, Ambassador. Next, I am pleased to introduce President of the Republic of Kosovo, Yosa Osmani Sadriu.
Dear friends, such a great pleasure to be celebrating the 4th of July together with all of you. Mr. Speaker Konjufca, Mr. Prime Minister Kurti, Ambassador Hovenier, all of you are present today. Today we come together to mark 246 years since the United States of America was born. And on behalf of all the people of the Republic of Kosovo, I want to wish you all a very, very happy 4th of July. To those US diplomats present and to all of our American friends, I know you are far away from home today and unable to celebrate with your loved ones. But I want you to know that Kosovo is your home too. To all the people of America who wish to visit, to work, or invest here, you and your families will always be seen as one of us, and the welcome is infinite. Distinguished guests, for the people of the Republic of Kosovo, what makes the United States of America truly great is not its sheer size or its economy, but it is the values and the ideals the nation was built on, and the willingness of the American people to defend them. Freedom, as we know all too well, is not free nor a given. For us, the United States of America, and for many around the world, is the land of liberty and opportunity, the home of the free and the brave, but it's also the global defender of peace and freedom, and a place of hope and comfort for people across the globe who believe in the same vision for our world and for the future. And what makes celebrating the 4th of July here special, as opposed to any other US embassy around the world, is that today is not just a celebration for the United States. It is a celebration for our independent Kosovo and our independent people too. What the United States and the American people have done for our country, for our freedom, for our right to exist, for every man and woman, for every child who calls Kosovo home, goes beyond any partnership known in the world. In our best days and in our worst days, America has always stood by us, and we will always stand by you. It is no coincidence that when we celebrate our Independence Day on the 17th of February, the US flag flies high alongside the Kosovo flag. This serves to recognize the commitment of your nation to our independence, and it is our way of showing our heartfelt gratitude. Over the last few decades, our countries have not only grown stronger, but we have also grown together. As President Biden recently wrote to me, Kosovo has grown into a nation ready to share its experiences with the world, and today repeatedly shows leadership on the international stage. We are determined to succeed and determined to walk with you side by side. We know that today, the great American nation is facing its own fair, perhaps unfair, share of challenges in this ever-changing global environment. But if there's one thing we all know and believe in, is that America has been and will always be the greatest nation of ideas and values the modern world will ever know. During these challenging times for our continent, we, the freedom-loving Europeans, but especially the freedom-loving people of the Republic of Kosovo, continue to be guided and live by the words of so many US great men and women. But I will mention only one. President John F. Kennedy, when he said, "Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty. These words were said at a different time and in a different circumstance, but when our values and everything that we have built together are under threat, they could not be more relevant or true. And on a final note, dear friends, today is about celebration, but I want to raise a toast, although I don't have a glass here, but I wanted to raise a toast to a dear friend that we lost this year, who made an immense contribution to building an everlasting bond between our nations, the late Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, so that we can celebrate her life and her legacy. God bless the Republic of Kosovo and the United States of America and our eternal friendship. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your kind remarks, Madam President. We will now hear remarks from Prime Minister Albin Kurti.
Dear Madam President Osmani, dear Ambassador Hovenier, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure to join you today in marking the 4th of July, the birthday of a great nation and a most significant ally of our people. Thank you for having me. The American Declaration of Independence introduced a major break in world history. It was the first time that a country was being founded by explicit appeal to the Enlightenment notion of the inalienable rights of the individual. As the founding fathers put it in the most memorable line of the Declaration, quote, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed," unquote. While the doctrine of government by consent is well known, that of inalienable rights is often misunderstood. By inalienable rights, the American founding fathers meant rights that cannot be alienated even with the consent of their bearer. In other words, one may not sell oneself into slavery even if one wanted to do so freely. This classical liberal doctrine is radically different from the modern liberal one that emerges after the rise of industrial capitalism, which holds that inalienable rights are those rights that require consent to be alienated. The European Enlightenment found its first and most significant political embodiment in the American Declaration of Independence. The later, in turn, heralded the era of democratic revolutions against the divine right of kings that would soon thereafter sweep across the European continent and eventually the rest of the world. It is hardly an overstatement to say that modern political history cannot be understood, much less appreciated, without the American Revolution and the Declaration of Independence that sought to justify it. An American innovation whose significance has come to be acknowledged only by more recent scholars, and one that I, as a social democrat, am especially fond of, is the replacement by Thomas Jefferson of John Locke's famous triad, life, liberty, and property, with life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Subsequent generations of American radical Democrats understood well the meaning of the Jeffersonian political ideals expressed in the Declaration of Independence. It is not a coincidence, therefore, that all the major progressive social movements in US history, namely abolitionism, feminism, the workers' movement, the civil rights movement, and the student protest movement, have made repeated appeals to the text of the Declaration of Independence. Likewise, so many third world freedom fighters found inspiration in it. At the beginning of the 20th century, Albanians were fighting to secure their place among the world's independent nations, and our then leaders also placed their hopes on President Wilson's American idealism. At the end of the 20th century, a humanitarian intervention led by the United States and guided by the idea of supremacy of human rights over state sovereignty would ensure the survival of the people of Kosovo. Today, we are committed to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for our country, for our region and beyond, regardless of race, ethnicity, color, religion, political beliefs, sexual orientation, or any other real or perceived differences. Dear friends, virtue is the foundation of happiness, and virtue consists of prudence, temperance, fortitude, and justice. These are again the words of Thomas Jefferson, the author of the Declaration of Independence. Nowadays, the word virtue means morality, but in the time of America's founding fathers, it meant public-mindedness, or in other words, the quality of putting the common good before self-interest. Not surprisingly, in the revolutionary era, writings safe kept at the US National Archives, the word virtue appears 6,000 times. Indeed, more often than the ultimate goal itself, freedom. Apparently, it takes virtuous people to set up a just society. As James Madison put it, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. Hence, a government structured on checks and balances is essential if we are to protect this inalienable right. Ladies and gentlemen, it is precisely the radical Enlightenment ideas upon which the United States was founded that seem to bother today's far-right authoritarian leaders. As prophets of the counter-Enlightenment, they readily admit that they are engaged in a battle against the ideas of inalienable rights and government by consent. As we raise a toast to the 246th anniversary of the United States Declaration of Independence, let us recommit to defending its underlying political philosophy. Happy 4th of July, my best wishes for your nation's bright future. Thank you. Good, I was given only 5 minutes for my speech, otherwise another 5 wouldn't be enough for what I was going to talk about. New Orleans jazz, Mississippi literature, and Sunset Boulevard nightlife and daydreaming. Thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Prime Minister. This concludes the formal portion of tonight's event. Please enjoy the party accompanied by the live music of the United States Army Europe and Africa Soldiers Chorus and later DJ Isne. And please, no smoking or photographs outside of the designated areas.